once I log in here, I'm going to be at the top level of this multi-entity shared environment. The top level basically provides a bird's eye view into my organization. And here I can see that I have various different entities. These could be branches, these could be franchises, however you choose to set up your environment. What's also pretty cool is that when I click on one of these, it opens up in a separate tab. I can always tell where I am in the environment by means of color coding, as well as this notification over here. And I can restrict visibility depending on users, roles, and permissions so that specific users cannot see any other entities in this structure. Speaking of the structure, that is what I would like to show you next. Sage Intacct offers a nice visual hierarchy in order for you to be able to see the structure of your environment. For the purposes of this demonstration, I would like you to focus on Clearly. Now, Clearly has a 3-tier environment. As you can see over here, it has operations in Boston and San Francisco, in which they transact in US dollars. These feed into Clearly USA. There are other Clearly companies, as we see here, all 5 of them, and all of these feed into a main entity, which in this environment is entitled Intacct. Now, all of this feeds beautifully into dashboards. And so I'd like to show that to you. I'm going to open up the dashboard in a separate tab. Okay, so here I'd like to show you the consolidations dashboard at the top level. Here we see a beautiful display of our entire organization. So you have seen the structure, and now this dashboard is a bit meaningful to you because here we can see that each of the separate Clearly entities are all being consolidated and reported on in this final column. I also see here that this particular report is in US dollars, and that is why at the top here I can see what exchange rate is being used for the entities that do not report individually in US dollars. So it's really cool that I'm able to get this report to show in a currency of my choice, despite the fact that each individual entity has its own base currency for reporting. Further in this report, I can also see graphs, for example, which show the global revenue and the way that each entity contributes in this little donut chart. I can also see some examples of the conditional formatting that I have available to me and which you can find out more about in our video on dashboards. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the organizational structure so that I can explain to you how consolidations work. So consolidations need to be defined at each level. Here, for example, I would need to have a consolidation for Boston and San Francisco in US dollars to consolidate up to Clearly USA. I would then have a consolidation which brings the books of Clearly USA, Clearly North American Holdings, and Clearly Canada into US dollars and into one North American consolidation. I would also then consolidate my Ireland and UK branches into one consolidation. And finally, I can do a global consolidation. Now, each of those consolidations are defined in separate books, and I'm going to take you to that. So under Setup, I have each of my different consolidation books. And each of the consolidations that I spoke about on the previous page are defined over here. To do a bit of a deep dive, I'm going to focus on this global one. So here, under book information, I can see general information about this consolidation. I'd like to draw your attention here to the balance sheet account exchange rate that has been chosen here, which is the ending spot rate, as well as the income statement accounts exchange rate, which has been chosen, the weighted average rate. I'll highlight that later. Down here, speaking of currency exchange rates, I can choose what currency this particular consolidation is in, as well as which accounts I would like my gains and losses to go to. Here I can choose which exchange rates I will be using, or where the system will pull the exchange rates from. And here is where we can see one of the ways in which Sage Intacct proves to be a best-in-class solution that integrates with other best-in-class solutions. For example, Intacct pulls its exchange rates from a tool called Oanda, O-A-N-D-A. Oanda deals with all things currency, and in this case, brings in the exchange rates. Okay, so over here in my second tab, I can see my entities to consolidate. As mentioned earlier, I have all 5 of those entities that consolidate into this global consolidation. And very importantly, I have here an elimination entity. This elimination entity is where all of the inter-entity transactions that I choose to define will sit. And here I can see what those elimination accounts are. You can configure this to say, for example, that your due to USA account in one entity and your due from USA account in another entity cancel each other out. And I'll show you how this feeds into reporting. Okay, so now that we've seen how this elimination and consolidation is set up, let us go to the actual process. So here, under Run Consolidations, I'm going to choose the global book. Okay, so here I can see that I'm working in the past. I'm in 2017 in this environment. I have consolidated up to July, and August is my next available consolidation. Keep in mind that you can consolidate as often as you would like to. So I can do this daily, I can do this weekly, I can do this monthly. And in this particular case, I have chosen to do a monthly consolidation, but also because I'm working in the past, this consolidation will take place on the last day of whichever month I have chosen. When I click Consolidate, I get a table which shows me which exchange rates have been pulled from Oanda, so that is all automatic. And I mentioned earlier that I had decided to use different exchange rates for my balance sheet and for my income statement or profit and loss accounts, which is why here I am seeing my ending spot rate and my weighted average rate. At this point, I have the option to override the exchange rates if I would like to. And then I can click on Consolidate Now in order to run this consolidation. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to consolidate. I also would have the opportunity to consolidate offline if I imagine that this will be a very large consolidation. I'm going to take you through to the report that would come from this consolidation. So if I head over to financial reports here, I'm going to leave this page because I didn't consolidate. I'd like to show you the balance sheet in order to draw your attention to the elimination that took place automatically. I'm going to go to the last date of consolidation. And here we can see this looks very similar to the profit and loss statement that I showed you a bit earlier. But as mentioned, I would like to draw your attention to the elimination column. This is where all of the eliminations that I defined earlier in configuration sit. And here, for example, I can see that the due from USA figure has been eliminated in order to get to my all locations figure. So I have shown you how you can have a single integrated system which does your consolidations automatically and which automatically restates currency and allows you to report in real time. If you have any unanswered questions after this demonstration, please do reach out to us. Our email address is on the page, sales@tetrad.co.za. I'd like you to think about how this particular feature of Sage Intacct can make your consolidations more efficient. Thank you once again so much for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon.